Hello, y'all. I am fortunate enough to be here with Ben. And Ben and I actually met at a Sean Connell event. Was that it? In Vegas was it April or May? And I met him, I met his awesome mother and father, and figured, okay, Ben, with what he's doing, he's in a, well, I'm not going to steal his thunder. Ben, who the heck are you and what are you doing here today?
Well, hello, my friends. It is great to see you guys. My name is Benjamin Shrader. I run an Austin-based event production company called Shrader Promotions LLC, and we organize a ton of different concerts, mostly in Austin, and then actually a ton throughout the state as well. So a lot of different wonderful music shows, and I also am a real advocate for the dyslexic community. I have extremely severe dyslexia. I read at a third grade reading level, but don't let that hold me back too much. And so I love speaking to the neurodivergent community and the layered neurodiversity that we all have to deal with. Thank you so much. Ryan, thank you so much for having me because I am very excited. You're a friend of mine and I'm looking forward to speaking with you.
Yeah, of course. I think it was a few episodes back that a guest I was speaking with that I asked her, hey, do you have any people in your network that you think would provide value to our target audience of aspiring speakers, professional speakers, and entrepreneurs who speak to grow their business? And it was actually a double episode where there's two people on that we were having a conversation at the same time. So it was me and then the two of them. And they said, well, maybe it's a good idea, Ryan, if you start having people that have services that are relevant to professional speakers instead of professional speakers talking about their past and how they kind of did that. And I thought about it. I think, yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense. So we started having, ghostwriters, event planning folks, and then you just magically showed up and we got connected. I thought, okay, this is really cool. He's specializing in event production. We absolutely have to have him on here. Before we dive into all that, something pretty crazy happened on July 13th that I think went all around the world, that was just by pure chance, divine intervention. I mean, call it whatever you want to call it. That, Ben, we already had this episode scheduled like two or 3 months prior. And then, so tell your story. Where were you on this day? And there's a reason I'm asking this.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful to God to be alive. I was invited out by the Trump campaign as a special guest to their event in Pennsylvania. I was deeply honored. I was shocked. I was kind of surprised because I get an email from them, and I enjoy politics. I'm active with many different groups out here in Texas, but it's not my work. It's not my main thing. And so I was shocked. And I said, there's no way this email is real. And I look at it and I'm like, this is an official email. And then I had to fill out a form with the Secret Service. I gave my social security number, driver's license number, a ton of information about myself. That got approved. So that's good. You guys know I have no criminal record. And then I got that approved. And it was crazy too, because it was like a secure browser. I felt like James Bond. It was an amazing experience. From there, I found out Thursday, hopped on a plane Friday and arrived Saturday. I think another reason they invited me, of course, longtime support of the president, but on top of that, the fact that I did have a golf ball sized brain tumor, as you know, we've talked about before.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that it was almost like a make-a-wish type thing, So the Trump campaign was very kind to extend that invitation. I was a guest of them and a VIP special guest. I had an assigned seat with a nameplate. I can actually, I have it right. Yeah, that was my nameplate.
Wow.
And I had picked it up before chaos started, before the national tragedy hit, because I said, I'm going to, save this forever. And it wasn't this wrinkled. I had folded up nicely, but you know how it is. From arriving, we went through security. And I felt security was pretty tight. I mean, there were tons of them. There were people, I think like Homeland Security was there, like tons of police, a lot of military looking people, but they were a little more hidden in the backstage and like back areas. And I'm not sure how much I can kind of talk about that, so I won't really go into it. But they, helmets, body armor, rifles, all ready to go. I went from there, from going in, I had found my assigned seat. I was sitting, the Texas Ag Commissioner was right in front of me, the mayor of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, who acted very heroically during the incident. And there were a couple ambassadors around me, congressmen, senators. I didn't know who everyone was, but when a person started having a lot of pictures taken with them, I said, "Oh, that's somebody I want to talk to." And forgive me if I seem excited at this point. I was very, very happy to be there. It was one of the
Of
greatest
course.
honors of my life. And so at that point, I'm thinking this is going to be an amazing day. I'd say about an hour before the event happened. And as you can see, I'm still quite sunburned and everything, but that's on me. Trump team was passing out my cases and cases of water to the crowd. I said I didn't want to mess up my hair for my meet and greet with the president. And so I let myself look like a tomato instead of having messed up hair. Didn't bring sunscreen or anything, but Secret Service took us backstage. They took us to these tents that were set up and lined us up alphabetically. There were not many people, but maybe 30 people that were special guests of the event. And so we went one by one. They'd call us into this dark tent and they call me in and they get ready to announce me. And this is a part that I haven't actually shared with too many media outlets because I can't say with 100% certainty. I can say he said something and there's a part of me that is pretty sure what he said is what he said. He was speaking, they brought me in and then he had to pause before our photo and I had a few moments to talk with him. He had turned to his staff and he was speaking with them and, projecting his voice so that they could hear him because he was standing in front of a photo board. And I am almost positive, and I may not be correct on this, but I'm almost positive he was speaking with them to make sure the graft that would save his life was all ready to go. Because he was saying something that his stuff for the event would be ready. And so that was a surreal looking back. They announced me, they say Benjamin Shrader, CEO of Shrader Promotions. They were announcing each person's titles. I am very nervous, one of the few times that I'm very nervous. And I wipe my hand on my pant leg to get all the sweat off of it. And, he extends his hand, President Trump, and I can send you photos and videos that you can put on an overlay or anything like that for future reference. He was incredibly nice. Incredibly nice. I think you could tell I was a little nervous. And, excuse me, he was almost, I know it's going to sound like a strange word to describe, but he was almost jolly. He was nice to his staff, super nice to me. He seemed in great health. He had a very strong handshake. And yeah, seemed great. If you want to know what Donald Trump is like in real life, he is the Donald Trump you see on TV. He is one setting, and that's Trump. And that's how he was. We had spoken for a few moments, and then he said, "Okay, come here, let's get this picture." And then I had showed him my scar, and he had said, "Wow." And then we discussed that and a few other things that I'll go into one day. But yeah, no, he just was a great guy. And it was surreal meeting a president and having the opportunity to meet, former, current president, because I almost feel like we don't see them as actual other human beings.
Sure.
They're more these figures that we see on the TV or from a far distance at an event. And I'd seen him speak at some political events before, but I'd never been so close. I mean, this hand shook his. And so him being a real person, being an actual, man who puts one pant leg in at a time, and then actually being very nice to some young guy or some kid who was nervous to meet him speaks a lot to his character. The Secret Service took us out, and we had some time in the backstage area, and then brought us back to our seats. Now, if you're facing the stage, I was directly on the left of the stage, third row from the front. They take us back about 30 minutes after that. I think all the photos had wrapped up, and the president came out, And, thunderous, raucous applause, many chants, and people are very excited. I was 20, 30 feet tops away from him. I'm looking, right up there. I'm taking pictures. I am very excited. He only talked for a very, very brief time, 5 minutes maybe. And then I hear pop, 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 pop. Many pops, many, many pops. And like darts flying. And I know what a gun sounds like. I immediately duck because, as you know, I'm half deaf. My directional hearing is not the best. And so I believed someone had pulled out a handgun and had started firing at that moment. I turn around, and I apologize if I seem off about this at all, but I turn around and I see a lower torso and legs and so much blood all over. I would later come to find out that the shooter was 200 feet. I believe the exact number is 300. I would have guessed 200 feet behind where I was sitting. And there's many graphics and things like that where they show the trajectory of the bullet. And I'm literally right next to the line that is the trajectory of the bullet that hit, of the bullets and the bullet that hit President Trump. After seeing that person injured, which to the best of my knowledge is the person, I turn back and I see the president holding up his fist, surrounded by a donut of Secret Service agents. Now, when the shots first went off, I did see the president do this, and now I see him holding up his fist. And I was thinking that he hadn't been hit. I was thinking, okay, this was a failed assassination attempt, which it was, but he had been hit. I did not see any blood on his face. It was a little too far away, and my contacts were a little blurry. Not. I guess you know how it is. Your eyes dry out and stuff, but I could see just fine. I yell, shooter, shooter, shooter. I get down on the ground because my goal, my mind in moments like that goes relatively clear. I joke with my friends that when everyone else panics, I'm calm. When everyone else is calm, I panic. It's true. It's a weird thing, but I said, okay, I need to become the smallest target possible, and I need to extract from this area as quickly as possible. Because at this point, I still believe there's a shooter in the crowd, and I'm worried about a firefight breaking out in the crowd. And then two, I have to say the Secret Service response on Trump was quite fast. I mean, it was like that. What I just described, this whole sequence, took place in maybe 5-10 seconds. And I also want to say, this is very important, is that, I extend my condolences and my prayers to the family that lost a father, that lost someone very close to them. And so that man died a hero, and I extend my thoughts and prayers to everyone who was injured. May they make a full recovery, especially the former president. May he make a full recovery and turn to the jolly man that 30 minutes before I was shaking his hand. So as I'm on the ground, I'm yelling shooter. There's a lot of confusion. You have to take into account that cell service was out because so many people were on their phones. It was very spotty. I quickly sent a text, tried to. I'm not sure if it had gone through at the time, but cell service was spotty. I said to my family, I said, love you, on ground, not hit. I misspelled shooter because I have very severe dyslexia. I had said, love you, shooper, on ground, not hit. I texted my girlfriend. I said, on ground, not hit. On ground, not hot, I believe is what I had said. And, it's under pressure. Typing and spelling isn't my strong suit. A lot of people are saying somebody snuck in fireworks. That was a common thing that people were saying in the crowd. And when people saw the injured and the dead, I'd never seen anybody shot before. I'm sorry. It is an odd thing to think that if that trajectory was just a little different, if the bullet was just a little more to the right, I wouldn't be talking to you today. I wouldn't be here. And that is an odd thought to have. I mean, 10 feet behind me, the person was hit in the bleachers when we were sitting a little lower. And so, I mean, I look and I see this, but forgive me for breaking up the story. Yes, so we see I had seen the individual hit, and then I'm on the ground sending some texts, yelling shooter. People are confused about what's going on. There was not a ton of panic in the crowd. There was some from videos I took on my phone at the time, so that this is going to kind of a disturbing thought, but it was so that if I went down, there would be some record of what happened. From videos at the time and other videos that we have all seen, there was a lot of screaming. I really don't remember any screaming. Maybe a little bit at the time, but I was in very just a kind of I need to stay small, need to move. Because I'm not armed. I have a first aid license, but I'm too far away to help. The person's already surrounded, and all I'm going to do is get in the way of the professionals, law enforcement. So my goal was to stay out of their way. Before we move on, let me say that that President Trump's he showed a lot of courage. I mean, to get shot and then to shove your fists in the air and say, fight, fight, fight. And I think, he means that more in the sense of he's fighting on. To literally get shot and to stand up and do that when you don't know if there's more assailants. Yeah. I mean, that takes some, and this might be a little crude, forgive me, but that takes some balls. The pictures that I've seen, that's a brave man, braver than I think I would be in those type of situations. Eventually, I would say maybe 5 to 10 minutes. I apologize. The time frame here in my mind becomes a little foggy. But about 5 to 10 minutes, a man in a black suit, white shirt, earpiece comes up to the VIP section, and he says, "We need to go. We need to go this way." And he sort of starts leading everyone closer to the fence and then to the exit. And at this point, there's a tactical team, soldier-looking people in the bleachers. I believe they had evacuated the individual that had been hit. And also at a building 200 feet away, there was tons of soldiers swarming around this building on the roof of it. And I see what I believe was a soldier lying down. I come to find out that was actually the shooter dead. I make it to the exit. I was there alone. By complete chance, I stumble into an acquaintance that I haven't seen in like a year, Sammy, and I owe him deeply because he says, "Hey, Ben, we got a car. Let's get out of here." And I see that as a very fortuitous, and the whole thing is a miracle that Trump is still alive, and I feel I'm deeply blessed that I am still alive, that I'm able to talk to you today, because it was way too close. It was way too close. We get to Sammy's car, and thank God we did, as information's come out later that the shooter had prepared some explosive device in his vehicle. I don't know what that was, but I'm glad that we were able to get out of the area. And I pray to God that nothing like this happens again. I don't want to see any political violence. I don't want to see any candidate, any politician hurt, because this is America. We talk, we vote. We don't need this. And that some crazy guy is going to do these type of things it's madness to me. That is what happened.
So I want to ask you this question, which you might not have been asked yet, but I'm going to ask this question because after I was in a near fatal car accident, I got a lot of this same question as well. How do you perceive your own life differently coming so close to not being alive?
I come to that with a slightly, I think, a slightly different experience than a lot of people because I'd already had the brain tumor.
Yeah.
I, if I didn't get it out, I would have had a year or two before I had a massive stroke and just dropped dead. Because of that, I saw that, as my first strike, but I was lucky. I was blessed. And, thank God they were able to get it out. Thank God they were able to save my facial nerve. Deaf in one ear, I can live with that. It rings constantly, but it's not as bad as, I thought it would be. Maybe that's not true, but it's not as bad as it could be. Because of that near-death experience, different than yours. Yours, you were facing it right there. For me, it was going into a hospital and kind of facing it there. And this experience, where it would have been instantaneous, or it would have been something very horrific, I've seen what getting shot does to the body, and I don't want that to happen to mine. I look at life like this. I choose to not believe in anything like a simulation or anything like that, because my psyche couldn't take it. I choose not to believe in reincarnation because that would be a true hell to me. Myself, I want one good life. I want one good life where I give it my all, and I do everything I can to make other people's lives better, to provide a good life for myself, my family, the ones I care about. And then when my time comes, my time comes. And hopefully I'll go to heaven, and that will be a wrap on Benjamin Shrader. Looking at it like that, I say, well, I did the best I could. And if I had tragically passed there, then I did all I could. I think that I do feel sad, though, where it really does hurt is to think about my family and my loved ones, and also being maimed is something that I do fear. I'd rather be in or out. And it's very strange to think about. I think I compartmentalize things in my mind, and I think it's how I stay calm under pressure, but I can't fully comprehend it, that I was way too close. There's a video where the guy next to me says in horror, we almost got shot. I mean, we could hear the bullets, and they, on all those graphs, right by where I was. I think that it's something that will take a long time for me to process, but I'm grateful to God to be here, and I pray that those who are injured pull through.
You cool if we pivot the conversation to more business focused? But first, thank you for sharing that story. I think it's important for us to touch on it because it is a life-changing experience. Well, I don't know if it's life-changing, but
it certainly is life-changing.
Okay, a very significant experience that you personally went through, and I felt it would be almost disrespectful to jump right into business when you have this, this thing that's obviously the most prevalent event in your life recently.
Going to text you about it, and then I said, oh, I didn't want to derail things or mess anything up, so I said, I just won't bring it up. Maybe he hasn't heard about it, but I'm happy to speak with you. I mean, everybody watching, Ryan is just a great guy, and he does amazing work, and he's a good friend. So I hope you guys enjoy his show.
Thank you. And so for the target audience we got here, it's aspiring speakers, professional speakers, and entrepreneurs who speak to other business. You specialize in booking artists at concerts, correct? And I was looking at some content earlier, and I think it was a woman named Ashley. I don't remember her last name. Ashley something was her last name, but she talked about how speaking and a speaking business is very similar to performance and kind of like an artist. And acting, right? Because at the end of the day, it's you have to elicit emotions in the audience if you want them to really understand what you're saying from stage. And the hardest part of a speaking business, the entire business of the speaking business is booking gigs. That's the business of it. So what similarities or differences do you find for artists trying to get gigs booked with you, as you would assume speakers? And I think you maybe have some vision into speaking and the speaking business because your experience working with your mom, who's got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Mary, if you want to, Mary Shrader, if you're
Yeah, she's amazing. She has a massive cooking YouTube channel. I would say that my experience in the music industry, and I do think whoever said that, it brings up an excellent point, because there are a lot of relation to booking, whether it's a comedian, a talent, an artist, or doing a speaking gig. My company, it's basically full service event production company. So if we're doing our own concert, then we're usually booking, an artist at a venue, and we're handling ticket sales and everything. And then if we're brought in by a company, commonly like fraternity, sorority, corporation that will want to put on a concert for their people, then we're handling everything, sound, venue, everything for them. Where it comes in is that a lot of times my personal relationships are the key to this. That I basically, and over time, I've worked at this for 7 years. I've met all the big venue and nightclub owners in Texas. I know people at C3. They're the people that put on ACL and the Moody Center. Night Culture, I've done a lot of work with Night Culture. They're the second largest event production company in the state, C3 being the largest. Those relationships and the fact that I'm nice. There's plenty of cake for everyone to go around, and you don't want to be some cutthroat person. I genuinely try to take care of people. I genuinely try to make it a win-win deal. I am respectful. I'm nice. And by building those relationships, that is how I get gigs. That is how I get companies to find out about me. That is how I get artists, managers to find out about me. Because in the beginning, who I could book was 100% based off of, I met a DJ who knew the manager of this artist. I reach out to that manager. We come to an agreement. I book the artist. I meet their people. I make sure that I get phone numbers. I'm a big business card fan, but I'm also a big fan of actually get their number. Always get the person's number in your phone or their card, always. And then give them your business card, because the business card exists for legitimacy and nothing else, because people will lose it. So I would say that building the relationships you want to become friends with, and you want to meet the right people. And you want to be in situations and places. So going to conferences like you and I met at. I mean, this wouldn't be happening if we didn't meet. So doing that, going to those type of things, and it doesn't need to be expensive things. It needs to be wherever you want to grow power. And I'm starting a YouTube channel on this. It's Benjamin Shrader. You can search it up and subscribe if you'd like. An influencer's influencer, how to become an influencer with Ben Shrader. But basically, you need to be in the circles, wherever you want to be booked, whatever you're talking about. So let's say knitting. You like to knit. You want to be going to yarn conventions. You want to be going to the knitting book club in your town. I'm also a big fan of geographical power, which I know can seem a little weird today in our social media world, but you want a base of operations. I have, for me, multiple venues that I often work with out here, Vulcan, Rio, these places, different venues here are my bases of operations. So if there's an organization or a city where you speak a lot, you want to have that base of power so that you can show it off to other cities in your local area. I'm a big fan of having a geographical area.
That's interesting. And kind of playing off that point, right? So I was talking to my business partner about this, and a lot of my business is based off of relationship building, but the problem with it, I don't know if it's a problem or an opportunity, or maybe both, is I don't want to say it's impossible, because anything is possible, but it's incredibly difficult to scale
Completely.
building one-on-one genuine relationships with people. yeah, I don't know how to scale that. So how have you kind of used that as the key value, the key moat of your own businesses, the relationships that you're able to build? How have you been able to use that to grow your business and continue to grow your business to go
Yeah.
from, you've 1 to 10, for example?
Forgive me. I fundamentally, that is an excellent question to ask. If you have something on personal relationships, that if you have a business that's based off personal relationships, how do you scale that? I will be very honest with you. I do not know, and I have not been able to. My company relies on me and my personal relationships. It is completely, my personal brand is my brand. It is the brand of my company. I do not know how to scale that 100%. Now, I would say having some really close allies, some other people. There's a few gentlemen that I work with very often, and so their personal networks are my personal networks and vice versa. So some true allies, and that is hard to find. But that's another reason I'm a fan of the geographical area, because as you build up your base of power and you're well known in your area where you are, it's a little easier to have that name recognition. And of course, you can do some of this through social media, build up a powerful social media, and then you can DM somebody, and that can be sort of a quick way in. Other than that, becoming I forget what the correct term is, but an approved source of knowledge in your industry, becoming someone who's known in that can help you open personal relationships. There was someone who I had wanted to speak with for a long time, and it's a YouTuber that I'm a fan of. I think they make very good content. And I only recently felt that, okay, things are going well enough. Let me reach out to them. They emailed me back. But I've done this many, many times before and not gotten emails back. So basically, once you've built up authority, once you've built up legitimacy, something I'm a huge believer in and something I emphasize very often, you need to have legitimacy. I'm not even as anti-college as most. And I didn't even really, this is going to sound bad, I didn't learn too many things that I use on a daily basis in college. But the very fact that I have the piece of paper gives legitimacy. And that's why I would wear a suit in the beginning, because legitimacy. I would always be in a suit every single night, shaking the hands of bouncers, talking to any manager that I could. And if an owner was there, I was definitely going to talk to him. Getting rejected 99% of the time. And the one person gave me a shot. So that tenacity, build up a good reputation for being nice, be polite. If you're going to get upset at something or see what someone said as insult, don't. I know it sounds crazy to say, but control your emotions and try to look at everything in the best light. And if somebody says something mean to you on social media, especially, never reply with a mean response. I got like 20 DMs today from one person just saying terrible things. I said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope you have a nice day. Boom. Put it away. Silence it. That's what you should do. So to return to your question, I am not sure. Scaling a personal brand and scaling those personal relationships is the same problem Instagram influencers encounter. It's hard to scale. I do not know how, so I recommend having a geographic base of power, and I hope to figure it out myself in the future.
That's interesting. Now, you're one of the first people I've heard mention the geographic base of power, but I think that is super interesting.
I guess I coined that, but I'm sure
Yeah.
someone else has said that, but I am making that up, making the word up.
Sure. And so at what point do you, when you, let's say, right now it sounds like you got kind of all of Texas, I guess, conquered, for lack of a better term.
I love your language.
When do you decide, okay, I got Texas, I got a system, I got operations, I got a team that manages Texas for me, I'm ready to go to Georgia, Florida, Arizona, the surrounding states of Texas? When do you choose to expand your geographic?
This may sound a little crazy for me, who is always saying we have to be conquering. I do not plan to expand far outside of Texas.
Interesting.
The reason being for these bigger shows where we might have 10,000, or the largest one we were ever part of, 50,000 people.
Wow.
I need to be there. I need to be able to, because I've had a problem where I've sent out my people. I have a couple employees and a couple contractors, and it's a relatively small team, but you can get a lot done when you work hard and work quickly. I've sent them out to events and bouncers won't let them in. Managers are like, where the heck is Ben? Owners are why, what? Where's Ben? I don't want to talk to you. Get out of here, And that is a genuine problem that I've had. When it comes to locking down cities and locking down a state or a geographic area, I like to have a person in each city that's my main point of contact. Now that can be bad when a person gets out of the game or gets sick or things like that, but it is a difficult thing, and that's why I plan for Texas to be my base of power, and there's plenty of cake to go around, plenty of money to be made, because I feel that if I push too far, if I was Icarus and I flew too close to the sun, it would be catastrophic. I've done a couple events outside of Texas that I was invited onto or that they wanted some advising on. I've done advising for a couple different events, some larger events out here, some in other places, but I don't like doing advising too much because they don't listen to me. But I tell them, don't do this. Please don't do this. We're 3 months out. Please don't do this. And they do it. But I do enjoy it, advising, but I like when the people actually listen to the advisor they hire. However, the events outside of the state were okay. Occasionally, for special things, when I know a conference is coming up or something, I have done an event in that city during that time period, and those have been good. And I've partnered with occasionally even local groups similar to mine. So, full service independent event production company. I'm one of the larger, smaller companies, and it seems like a odd way to say it, but it's all big companies like C3, Night Culture, technically Live Nation, even though they're a lot more with ticket sales and things like that, but they own many venues. So we'll count them in that. But there aren't too many smaller, more boutique organizations that people can actually go to, or we can get better prices on an artist because we do spot shows and things like that. I won't say the names of my competitors, so sure. Yeah, just to be safe.
What is the value that you normally pitch to investors, or not investors, sponsors, as far as why they should sponsor one of the events you're putting together? Is it just views, or is it more attention and more brand equity, or what is the real tangible value that they put the money into the event or choose to sponsor the event for?
Yes. Well, I would say that brand recognition is definitely one thing. There are a lot of different things, especially in college towns, and we can even count Austin as partially that, because it's where I'm based. UT is out here. A lot of apartment complexes, especially when there's a glut. I always like to look in the market where there's chaos or where there is a problem. And where there's a problem, I say, okay, there's opportunity. These people need my help. The person who's putting on, or the venue or the company that's doing $1 trillion in sales a year need me to come in and do anything for them. But the person who was doing $1 trillion in sale and is now only doing $1 billion, you know what I mean. They might be interested, or they might be looking for that type of thing. A lot of times, there'll often be almost a reward for employees. So a company will come to me at the end of the year or at the end of the quarter, and we'll say, okay, we want to do this event, and this is for our employees. Other times, it's trying to capture an audience. So the college kids, if you sign your lease, you get to go to this event. And then also, too, fraternities and sororities, not as much anymore, but for a large portion of time, they were my largest revenue source. I do find it, I love the Greeks. They were some of my best customers. I do find it stressful working a little bit with them. I was never in a fraternity or a sorority. Yeah, I was never in a fraternity myself. However, I find that I always do events with them at a venue. won't do anything at their house for legal reasons, for legal protections. Only at a venue. Get the money up front. Because some of these organizations, I mean, there are some at A&M that have a $100,000 a year party budget.
Wow.
That's a crazy amount of money to be throwing around. And there's real opportunity there. And I can get artists a lot cheaper for them than a lot of the larger organizations. So those are kind of the different people that are going to be looking for those type of things. Occasionally you'll have, as you become more well-known, you'll have venues come to you and say, hey, we want this artist, we want to do this show. We'll pay for the artist, and then you'll get, and on that, it's usually smaller, like 10% of ticket sales. So that is, yeah, those are the main types of people. Forgive me, I'm sure that there are others, but those are the main ones that come to mind.
It's interesting. And so for you, having kind of been on the inside of this, system or whatever we'll call it, what knowledge do you think, and this is interesting, I'm curious to see how you answer this question, what insight or knowledge nuggets would you want to give the aspiring speaker, the professional speaker, the entrepreneur who speaks to grow their business that they might not have heard before? And keep in mind, I would like you to lean into your subject matter expertise, because I haven't had anybody on here that has had your expertise coming from this side of venue production and event production. Normally it's, like Sean Connell's event, that kind of event production, not necessarily the kind of event that you're talking about. So I think it'd be really interesting to hear what knowledge you would want to share with them from your perspective.
Indeed. I would say, first and foremost, if you want to be booked to speak, you want to make things as easy as possible for the people booking you. Whenever I'm working with somebody and let's say they're kind of slow, or they're not getting things done, or they're not getting back to me, I find a lot of times it is because there's too much resistance. It can be something as simple as they have to copy the phone number and into the phone and they can't just tap it. And so they end up not calling you back. You want to make the path as easy for the people as possible, to the point that it's almost silly. Next thing is, as a speaker, you want to have proper diction, you want to be easily understood, and you want to prepare. I mean, look at me. I have some terrible quote now that I mess up as I'm speaking, but you basically want to prepare. You want to learn how to speak extemporaneously. Myself, I have no notes, but I have general talking points and knowledge that I've built up over time. If you want to speak on something, you want to be watching videos on it, you want to be learning about it, you want to become immersed in it. When it comes to actually getting booked, quantity, quantity, quantity. You want to reach out to all of the places that you want to speak at. And you can shoot a couple for the stars. You can send it off to some really, higher up things that you're like, wow, I really want to speak at that. I really want to do that. Try it. But if you get rejected, don't worry. It's okay. Like there's so many more. I have been rejected so much in my life. See, thank God I have a girlfriend now, because, there was a lot of rejection before. I've been rejected so much in business, and it's not anything personal. It's nothing I even did. I was rejected for, who knows? So don't worry about rejection. Shotgun method. Try everyone that is legitimate and everyone that is appropriate, so that you can give a few smaller talks, so that you can do a few smaller things. And just like I built up in College Station, where I got my start, I became the largest event production company in College Station, so that I could offer that city to other cities so that I could expand. That was what I recommend. Get those smaller talks, show that you do a good job, prepare, and just remember, as long as you don't drop the F-bomb or you don't say something horrible, it's gonna be okay. So just look at it and say, okay, it's going to be okay. I do these smaller ones. I have videos to prove that I'm a good speaker, that I'm a competent speaker, and I send those out when I'm submitting my forms and my requests to other people. Yeah, those are going to be the main things. Be resilient, and I don't mean to sound cliche because I don't go for all the motivation people sometimes. Life can be really hard, but we have to push through, and not everyone's going to succeed. No way. But those of us, myself, you, your listeners, and viewers, those of us who have the gumption, who have the courage to pick ourselves back up again, have the chance to succeed. I don't believe everyone has that, but I believe that many of us do.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that, Ben. And I think, when you say that, I think back to your scar and the stuff you've been through to be able to
Benjamin
that.
Mustard. Benjamin
There we go.
Mustard.
I remember when we met, I held up my scar to you.
Yeah.
I said, I win. Mine is bigger than yours. And we were joking about it because it's like there's not a lot of people that have scars like that get, you've been through some shit, and it was just funny, right? So I know we got 1 minute left here, so I want to wrap it up. But if you are listening and you guys you found interesting what Ben had to say here, whether it be about his experience at the attempted assassination, whether it be in business, whatever it may be, you found something of value in what he was here sharing today, share it with that friend that you think would want to listen to it, whether it be for entertainment value or whether it be for tangible business value. Either way, do him the favor and send it over. Guys, thank you for listening. And Ben, thank you for making this appearance. Cheers, y'all.
Thanks so much.